Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Adrienne. I am Indiana Backyard Gardener. And if you're new here, then thank you for joining me. I would like to share today a video about how we can use dandelions. So first of all, let's go take a look at the dandelions in my yard. So over here, off to the side here, you can see I have a whole front yard of dandelions here. But then back here, if you come look this way, I also have a whole lot of dandelions over here. So I have no shortage of dandelions here. So today I'm going to pick some dandelions. So if you see here, I have a sea of dandelions here. No shortage here. So I'm gonna take my bucket and we're gonna start picking some dandelions. Guys, so we have our bucket full of dandelions, and I just want to show you how beautiful those are. They look like little pom-poms. They're so full. Look at all the pollen on there. So as you can see, there's no shortage of dandelions in my yard. And if you didn't know, dandelions are some of the first flowers that bees gravitate to for their pollen. And if you look there, look at those are just full, if it'll focus, those are just full of pollen. And my fingers are just full of pollen too. So we're going to take these inside and we're going to get these washed off, and I'm going to show you how I do that. And then we're going to talk about how we can use them. So I like to rinse my dandelions. I know that some people don't rinse them or would prefer not to rinse them. But I think just a simple vinegar and water solution is adequate, just to make sure that I don't have any ants or any other critters that are hiding away in my blossoms. So we're going to soak these in this solution just a little while, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, not very long. Just going to give it a quick soak. All right, so our next step is to rinse these. So I'm going to put them in a strainer and I'm just going to give them a quick rinse under some cold water. Okay, so our next step is to separate the green parts from the petals. The reason why we do that is because the green parts are bitter. So I'm just taking the base of the flower and I'm just splitting it in half, and then you just take the petals out and they just come right out. So if you just split it right at the base, easy peasy, and then you take your petals out and you put the green parts aside. You can use those in your compost. Do not get rid of those. Those are good. So just peel it apart, take your petals out, and set your green parts aside. Now that's one way to do it. So the next way is to just get you some scissors. These are just regular kitchen scissors. And I just cut the stem off, right as far as close as I can without cutting into a lot of the petals. Basically just like that bottom stemmy part. A little bit of green is not going to hurt. It just makes things go quicker and makes it a little bit easier than to have to peel apart all of those little flowers. I'm a little bit off camera here, but I think you get the idea. Just snip it off and you're left with most of the petals. So that's usually how I go ahead and do it. And just snip off that bottom part, and then there's all your petals, and there's very minimal green left over after that, and I don't even bother with that. It's not a big deal. All right, so we're going to make dandelion tea. I've got a quart-sized jar, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosely fill this jar about halfway with my dandelion petals. All right. And then I'm going to add a few things like lemon balm and spearmint, and I've got some stevia leaves here. I'm going to put all that in to steep with my tea, with my petals. And I'm going to add a little bit of stevia and monk fruit sweetener just to give it a little added sweetness. You can add whatever it is you like to add to your tea. You can add honey or agave or just regular old sugar, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to add to your tea. So in the beginning, I showed you guys that we had this boiling water on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add this boiling water, and I'm going to fill this jar all the way up with boiling water. All right, so this ladle is a bit slow, and I feel like I just don't want to use this ladle anymore. So I'm going to get a coffee cup. That's going to give me some more water, and I can pour it and fill my jar quicker. All right, so we got the jar filled, and I'm just going to put a lid on this, and I want to let it cool off before I put it in the fridge. So you see I've got my boiling water in there, my dandelions, my herbs. I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm going to let it sit, and I'm going to let it cool. Now I have these petals left, and we're going to work on our next recipe. But I'm going to scrape up all these greens, and this is going to go in my compost. I'm not throwing these away. These are excellent source of nutrients to go into my compost. All right, so the next recipe we're going to work on is going to be dandelion vinegar. And this is great to use as a base for like salad dressings or whatever you would use apple cider vinegar for. It just will give you that added nutrients, the added nutrients and minerals and vitamins that dandelion has to offer. So we're going to loosely fill the jar, and this time we're going to fill it all the way up with the petals. I did go ahead and clip some more so that I could make sure that I had enough to fill the jar. So like I said, loosely, and I'm just making a small jar. I don't need a whole lot, just a pint-sized jar, and I just loosely filled it to the top. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it with apple cider vinegar, and I'm going to put it all the way up, fill it all the way to the line. And because it's vinegar, you don't want to put your metal lid on because that vinegar will eat away at that lid. So what you want to do is you want to put a barrier between your lid and the actual vinegar. So what I'm going to do is use some parchment paper, and I'm going to put the parchment paper on first, and then I'm going to put my lid on just to create that barrier so that the vinegar doesn't eat away at my lid. You can probably use maybe a coffee filter in between, or perhaps some plastic wrap, just something to create a barrier. So now that I have my lid on, I am going to store this in a cool, dark place for about 4 weeks. And then what I'm going to do is after I take it out of where I have it stored, I'll strain it, and then I'll just be left with the vinegar. But that's it. That's your dandelion vinegar. I'm just going to write the date that I prepared it on the jar. That way I know when my 4 weeks is up. And like I said, I'm going to store that in a cool, dark place for 4 weeks. Okay, so my dandelion tea has steeped. And what I did was I strained it. I strained all the petals and everything out of it. And now I am pouring it into my jar. And that's it. My tea is done. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of water to it to make it a full jar. And then I'm going to put this in the fridge. But look at that beautiful color on that dandelion tea. That is full of all kinds of good stuff. Vitamins A, B, C, D, magnesium, and all types of minerals that are very good for the body. Lots of antioxidants and good things for digestive purposes. I will include a lot of information in the description about all the benefits of the dandelion. So this is done, and it's still a little warm, but I'm going to go ahead and taste it, and we're going to see how it is. So my thoughts on the dandelion tea is that it does taste a little grassy, so you would probably have to add a lot of sweetener, or perhaps, some other type of flavoring if you wanted to mask that. But when you consider the benefits of the dandelion tea, I think it's definitely worth it. Right now it's still warm, so maybe if it was colder, or if I had added a little bit more sweetener to it, maybe more mint, or perhaps if I had let it steep longer than half an hour, then maybe it would have a little bit of a better flavor. But overall, I think
I think it's good because of all of the benefits. So, my thoughts on dandelion tea, it's good.